A very good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to day 4, the last day of the third edition of CMO Week. For this edition, our theme is product and marketing innovation. The idea is to analyze how product and marketing innovation has become a survival strategy for CMOs. Over the last 3 days, we've hosted brand and marketing custodians from FMCG, consumer durable, and the healthcare sector. The topic for today's discussion is the new BFSI sector, and on the panel, we're marketers from some of the leading brands in this sector. To begin with, I would like to thank our associate sponsor, MySmartPrice. Moving on to the panel, we have Akhil Almeida, Head of Marketing, Aegon Life Insurance, Ashish Mishra, EVP Marketing, Acko Insurance, Elizabeth Venkataraman, Joint President, Consumer, Commercial and Wealth Marketing from Kotak Mahindra Bank, Ravi Santanu, CMO, Head Corporate Communications, Head Liability Products and Managed Programs from HDFC Bank, Sameer Sethi, Head of Brand Marketing of Policy Bazaar, and Shefali Khalsa, Head Brand and Marketing, SBI General Insurance. Now introducing you to the moderator of this session, Shrikant Khandekar, co-founder and director at AFAX. Once again, thank you everyone for joining. Over to you, Mr. Khandekar.
Thanks, Devashish. Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. We've heard, if you look at the business press, you read a lot about what's been happening in manufacturing, the havoc that the pandemic has caused, all right? But what happens in services? We know certain sectors like travel, which is the most written about, which have suffered grievously, right? But what's happened in other sectors? So the pandemic has not been the same bullet for different sectors. Different sectors have been impacted differently. So we are looking at the BFSI, and we are going to look at what impact this has had, all right? So we've got insurers, we've got some great panelists representing insurance companies, and banking. So we have two of our panelists represent general insurance, one life insurance. We have one aggregator and two senior executives from the banking sector. Now, the interesting thing that I found before we start, I should just mention this, is that this is you would think banking and insurance are very old companies, and there are about 100 companies if you put all of them together. But the mix of companies that we have today are a surprisingly young lot. We have only one of the companies, HDFC, is more than 25 years old. There's one, Acko, which is only 5 years old. And all of the rest are about a dozen years old, except for Kotak Mahindra, which is 18 years old. So it's a very young set of companies representing life insurance, general insurance, and banking. So we'll be trying to understand from them what has the pandemic meant to their business, especially to the marketing function, and how does the game change? So I'll start with the first question, and let's start alphabetically, then I'll start with Akhil. And the question for all of you is this, that just to establish for the audience what is the ground, as it were, what aspect of your business is digital and how much of it is physical? And in the case of any of you, if there isn't a physical aspect, how do you compensate for it? So Akhil, would you like to start off? Let's go alphabetically.
Sure. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay, so at Aegon, we've actually kind of in the midst of an interesting journey. So we took the call last year to kind of reorient our strategy and our focus from being a traditional, manufacturer and server of life insurance.
So, sorry, could you speak up a little?
Is it clearer now?
Yeah, it's better.
Right. So we took a call last year to move away from a more traditional model of, manufacturing and serving life insurance and move into a 100% digitally sourced and serviced model. So if anything, the pandemic, has kind of, while this plan was in the works, for some time, we laid the groundwork of this actually a couple of years prior. the pandemic kind of helped us accelerate that change. And now Aegon is a digital first business. So that means we've actually moved away from the traditional line of business, which would have been the physical lines of business that we would have had in the past. And now we have, as an organization, we're focusing entirely on,
No, but are you digital first or digital only?
Digital only.
You're digital only now.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Okay, cool. That's great. Ashish, would you like to? What about you?
Yeah. Hi, everybody. I think a little bit of context would help me narrate the story better. So I'm actually a banker by nature. I spent 14 years with HSBC across London, Dubai, and India. And last year when pandemic hit, we were in Dubai. We just launched Jade, the proposition on Burj Khalifa. Everything was great. And when the pandemic hit, as a massive bank, you just realize that you're so paper and physical dependent. The transition to digital was so difficult. But yeah, it accelerated. Projects started moving faster. Technology started coming into play, and that just even within the bank, the culture suddenly was okay. Now we have to move to this new world, and how do we move it faster? And then you cut to Acko, right? I joined Acko in August last year. This is completely digital, no physical aspect of the business, and then you realize that how Acko looks at digital is like it's a medium. It's not the business strategy. It's a medium, and it relies heavily on tech and data to understand its consumers and be able to price the products in a better way. So I do believe that there has been, for me, I've seen both sides. I've seen an organization beginning to learn and how to quickly adapt to the digital world versus an organization that was founded with the principle of being in digital.
Okay. Yeah, thanks. Elizabeth?
I think that in banking, we are fortunate that the journey of digital started some time ago, and we already had a trajectory which was quite fast-paced. Did see some of the businesses scrambling to set up a digital interface or figure it out during the pandemic. I think that way the sector has been ready. But we did see that the country leapfrogged 4 times or more than that in various parts of how they bought things. If the customer changed dramatically, right? Because the pandemic brought that on. And for us, it's very simple. We had a phygital strategy, but I think now the customer is changing that on her own because she is using more digital channels, and we've seen payments. We've seen a change in trajectory for payments. We've seen it in bill payments, in person-to-person payments, etc. So we see that the customer is also accelerating the trajectory now.
So do you see, and this question is for you as well as for Ravi after you, which is that do you see it, is it either or, or is it and? I mean, going forward, either digital, physical, both.
Should I answer that, or does Ravi want to take it?
No, you answer that.
Okay. So I think that it's segment dependent. There is the older segment, which does like a combination. The millennials may move to only, and India, it's significant in India because we are, we have 36%, which is in that segment. So we are probably one of the few countries. So I do think it's customer segment dependent, and the pace of evolution will change in the younger segments faster than in the mature segments.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. Ravi?
I'll first answer the first question that you asked, Srikanth, which is about what was happening. What we all learned is nothing can be taken for granted. Because if you look at the human life, all of us had assumed the life will go on like this. And none of us had seen a war, none of us had seen anything other than a short-term impact of, say, maybe of Mumbai floods, for example, because I'm from Mumbai. Nothing else which changed for us. This was the first time that as a whole world, as human beings, the way that we used to live suddenly changed. So what is it that we all learned is nothing is off the table. So we need to start rethinking and relearning what we used to do and do it for the time being. And that's what we have done. As Elizabeth was talking about, obviously 90% plus of our transactions were already digital. While we do have a 6,000 branch network in HDFC Bank, our branch network is more relationship centers and transactions were happening digitally. The biggest thing I see as the change is the whole mentality of people inside the organization. Consumer shift Elizabeth talked about, that happened. The mentality of the salespeople is, if everything happens digital, what happens to me? Now the salespeople figured out that digital is a tool for them to actually do their sales better. I think that was the biggest change we saw in HDFC Bank, where salespeople have gleefully accepted, saying that I will do the selling and I want a digital process to complete it.
Okay.
And it will be better off doing that. And I think that's the biggest change I see everywhere.
Did I hear correctly? You're saying 90% of the transactions were digital already in HDFC? In volume
we have been
terms,
always
right?
like that.
In volume terms, right?
In volume terms.
In volume terms. Okay. But for the big transactions, then people come to the bank, right? I assume.
No, the biggest of the transactions the corporate does is only on internet anyway.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Only for the retail big transaction, because beyond 50 lakhs, if you have to pay, and it happens only once in your lifetime when you go and buy a house. Other than that, who pays 50 lakhs and above at a single transaction?
Thank you. Samir, you are one of a kind, so your view on this is going to be...
So since sorry, please.
Yeah, please go ahead.
So, see, two of our biggest products are life insurance and health insurance, particularly term insurance and life insurance, which traditionally have been push products, right? So Policybazaar, like you said, is one of a kind, at least on this panel, wherein the first step is taken by the consumers proactively to buy these non-discretionary categories. So we've been trying to, through advertising and through various means, trying to convince customers that they need it and trying to shorten, the time to buy, etc. I think the pandemic sort of increased the acceptance of online as a buying channel for these categories as well. While a lot of people, and also it helped deal with procrastination also. A lot of people were in the mood to buy, were planning to buy, let's say a few weeks later, a few months later, etc. On a more conscious level also, it sort of increased the importance of insurance in their lives, which is why it was easier for them to log on to a website as opposed to physically deal with an agent or a banker. So I think overall for the digital ecosystem, the way pandemic increased the acceptance of it, I think it did so in a similar fashion with Policybazaar as well.
Yeah, thank you. Shefali, hi. Sorry, I can't hear you. Yeah.
Hi, am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Yeah. So answering your first question, Shrikant, I would say insurance overall, irrespective of LI and GI, traditionally it has been dependent on distributors. And traditionally, because of that, the physical aspect of physical distribution has been very dominant and very prominently used. I would say of late, about say 8-10 years back, there has been an introduction of digital and technology in the overall distribution channel as well. And while insurance industry has been a little slower in terms of accepting the technology, but it's been almost 8 to 10 years that I can say that even insurance industry has been moving into this direction of digitization overall, and which is where we have seen a hybrid model, which we say a phygital, the combination of physical and digital part. Today, I would say, yes, every industry has adopted technology, and of course, pandemic has triggered that forceful shift to the digital and technology adoption. So I would say today, IT is not just a department, but it cuts across all departments. It's a part and parcel of every transaction, every journey that I can say of a customer. Somewhere or other, there is a digital interruption there. So yes, largely speaking, I would say from overall GI perspective also, it is not just the transaction, the payment transaction, but I would say in any part of the journey, buying journey, whether it's through an agency channel or a bancassurance channel or a digital direct channel, the digital platform is weaved very well today in some or the other part. It could be 50%, a percentage may vary. But largely speaking, I would say we all are, riding on a phygital platform. So it's a hybrid model. And of course, the pandemic has triggered it, really made it a compulsion, and which has also reflected in terms of the consumer behavior. There's a lot of acceptance to this digital behavior, thanks to all the e-commerce sites and the behavior that consumer has adapted to that digital platform is also reflecting for a BFSI segment. So that's also reflected the major changes of behavior and expectation of the consumer today. Is also same for a BFSI sector.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Before I ask my next question, for all of you in the audience, if you have any questions for the panelists, please key them in now. As and when I get a chance, I'll toss them to them. Okay, so now the next question is that, and this is to all of you, anyone can choose to answer it. So we've all agreed that, all of you are agreed that there is a propensity towards online transactions. There's a greater propensity towards it ever since the pandemic came. But if you look at all your customers, okay, they have also suffered a lot, right? I think many have lost their salary cuts, business gone under. People have lost family members, relatives, friends. I mean, there's been really havoc all over. Okay, how has this? So I'm trying to understand the soft aspect of consumer attitudes, not just the fact that they are willing to come online and pay money. How do you think this has changed the attitude of your consumers that you target? And has that affected in some way their attitude towards products? I mean, so I'm going beyond just flat digital versus physical. I just first wanted to establish, what your views were on physical versus digital, to understand the softer aspects of how consumer attitudes have changed in the pandemic and how that has affected the way in which they see your product. Anyone, please, you can take a something specific to your company.
I will start. Sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So I think that the sentiments, I will stick to the sentiments because the sentiments are different in different segments. In SME segment, we do hear that our businesses have met with losses. We've had to take loans. We do hear that. And to make up, some of them have managed from savings, some of them have had to take loans. So we do hear that. In our consumer segments, we do hear that some have actually cut down on discretionary spends and have focused on what they really need. But there is also a segment that tells us they've increased spends. So I think it's a mixed bag based on, because there are many Indias, and that's reflected in the sentiment as well. Some who, some businesses and some have done okay, have held up. Some businesses have not. The salaried is more stable because I think corporate India was, kind to everyone and empathetic and understood what, the country was going through. So it's been a mixed bag, and that's what I would say.
I'll second what she said. I think there are numerous Indias and where we see the way in which they have taken this pandemic is different. One comment that we saw is people have put safety, security, and sustainability as the key going forward. So whether it is the individual safety and security of their money, because during this point of time, they've also understood how important is this for their physical as well as financial safety. And automatically, when you're worried about your physical safety, it extends to many other forms of safety in your financial safety for your family and all those stuff. And actually, I see it in the second wave much, much higher compared to the first wave. And the way we see it in the first wave, I think this panel will be a correct example. I don't know, many of our own friends would have got COVID during the first wave.
Right.
In the second wave, what we see is like almost on a daily basis, we hear that some of our friends, our fathers, our colleagues, and all those people who we know got it. Right. So the thinking about safety, security has increased manifestly, phenomenally across. it leads to some behavior. Like, for example, whenever auto sector opens up, you will see a lot more new people going and buying small cars. Because that's, again, from the safety perspective, they all want to be on their own private transport. People are buying more two-wheelers and all those stuff. Rural economy in the first wave was very, very impacted at all, in my view. And they were doing a lot more compared to the urban economy. Salaried class, for example, as Elizabeth said, discretionary spend cuts down because supply was taken out. Not that demand was not there, supply was taken out because of lockdown. And once the lockdown was eased, we could see it coming back in the festive season. March was bigger than last March for us, up to the time the second wave hit. That's the kind of sinking we see. I will wait for at least another 6 months to see how the pandemic becomes endemic and what people will do when it is allowed again. Will they come back to the same space in which they were spending earlier? We'll have to wait and see. It's too early for me to make any judgment calls on those.
For the rest of you who are were connected to insurance, have you seen any change in the kind of policy that there's a growth in certain segments or a slowing down in certain segments, or that there was a surge at a certain point in time and then things went back to normal? Any of you, for any of the sectors of insurance?
Sure, go ahead, Shefali.
Yes. So from the GI perspective, I would say there is an immense impact in terms of the requirement and the increased need of health insurance. So even the search trends has shown during this time, pandemic time, the increased spike in the health insurance as a search word also. In the overall.
Shefali, sorry if I may interrupt. When did you see the surge during the pandemic has been going on now on and off for 15 months. So when did you see the big surge?
That was so after March 2020, from April onwards, we saw this spike. September, it was dipped again. September to November, it went down. Again, December, it spiked again. So yes, overall also as an industry-wide, we have seen the increase in demand as well as even the consumption of the health insurance has increased a lot. I would say that the greatest impact has been that the consumer has moved to the digital platform. Like the companies were forced to move to the digital platform overnight. Similarly, even the consumer has adapted that and moved to the digital platform and has interacted even with the brands and the companies in the digital format. So the most impact in the overall is behavior and expectation, and the prominent expectation that we see as a difference is in speed and having options. So of course, today's consumer is much evolved with the e-commerce. I keep on saying that. That's what is replicated now as an expectation from a BFSI and insurance and banking as well. Even banking has evolved a lot. Everything is on mobile now. So has also forced the insurance, to move to the even to the not just the mobile platform or anything which is a DIY. That's an expectation for today's evolved customer, that even service-led is DIY. Okay. Buying, of course, is now a given, I would say, is an online journey that is a given an evolved customer can buy. But even the services have also moved to DIY. Okay. In fact, there are some data that supports that during the pandemic, the internet users has also increased by 8 to 9% in India. The social media users have also increased by 21%. Yeah. In fact, that has also led all the marketeers to shift all the campaigns. The pandemic during this pandemic, the marketeers were forced to shift all your campaigns to the digital platform. Okay. And that has also led to maybe to some extent a revenue increase in the social media platforms by 15 to 25%. Sure. That's what the data says. And talking about the overall generic at large, which is a GI TG for me, the behavioral impact that we have seen is that there is an increased online shopping. There is increased online streaming.
That's in a general sense, right?
Yes. Narrowing insurance, I would say doctor on call is becoming a value add by an insurer, and that's also been expected from the consumer today, which is a health consumer. Overall, I would say fitness is also increasing as a part of lifestyle. That's also somewhere related to a health insurer or health. And all that with this rate that we are seeing that the fitness increasing, catching up so much of familiarity, the usage of fitness app will also increase by 25% by the year.
Akhil, thank you, Shefali. Akhil, I wanted to ask you, what is the trend you've seen in life? I mean, are there more first-time comers? Is there a particular type of policy which is getting greater popularity?
From a consumer standpoint, I think one thing we've definitely seen is that there's an increase not just in the awareness, but also their ability to understand life insurance as a product. Bear in mind, especially for a lot of younger consumers, life insurance is not something that's really top of mind for them, right? But when you speak to younger consumers nowadays, there is much greater awareness about life insurance. Even the need is something that is far more recognized today than it would have been, just 12, 15 months ago. The kind of products that they're looking for would be products that would be simple for them to understand. So something like a term insurance product, right, where the give-get of the product is pretty clear. It's easy to understand even without an agent, especially for us. I mean, given the fact that we are now digital only, the younger consumers will tend to look out for products which are simpler to understand. Shefali talked about having a do-it-yourself kind of journey. So those are the products that we better uptake for. Of course, with older consumers, there will be some amount of in that aspect. But yeah, there's definitely, I think, greater understanding, and that's leading also to increased demand for a product like life insurance compared to
maybe Samir, you're the right person to ask that if you look at underinsurance here,
right.
Is there more underinsurance in life, in health, or in general?
So, see, I'll take a step back. I'll first talk about the initial question that you asked about how the pandemic is influencing the buying behavior of insurance across both general and life insurance. I think Ravi made a very important point about people becoming very serious about their health and well-being. I think that fundamentally has emerged out to be the general theme of the current period. I think the realization of how seriously you should take your health and well-being, now seriously you should make efforts to protect it by ensuring yourself and your well-being. I think that is the general theme of the moment. What that has done is that has also impacted the demand for protection products, primarily term insurance and health insurance.
Okay.
People are not delaying the purchase, which they earlier used to do. The decisions are happening faster. People are going to various purchase channels to buy proactively without really getting pushed, which was the way earlier.
Okay.
I think eventually this is also bridging. This is a very, very important step in bridging that under-penetration that you started talking about.
Okay.
I think it's a protection issue. I think that's been the issue in the protection products, primarily of term and health insurance.
Okay.
While it's also through the insurance category in general, but I think the fundamental theme is protection, protecting oneself, one's financial savings against these uncertain events and all of that. I think that's the major behavioral shift the pandemic has made.
Yeah, that's very interesting. I know all of you are very gung-ho about digital. It's pretty understandable. But what are the limitations of digital? I mean, if you were to map all of you are not in the same business, in the same segments exactly, but still, question for everybody. But if you were to look at, so of course, more people are going online, more people are transacting, all that, more people are listening to audio, OTT, everything's there, right? But my point is that if you were to rate your progress against what e-com companies have achieved, okay, where would banking and insurance stand? Is it largely a metro phenomenon? And I'm not dismissing the metros. I mean, some of our metros are as large as countries. So, I mean, that's a perfectly something to be satisfied about. But the fact is that if you look at e-com players, they talk about the fact that they are selling in tier 2 towns, etc. When you look at banking and insurance, anybody again answer the question. How does banking / insurance compare with what e-com companies have achieved?
So I'll go first here. It's amazing, huh? We've got customers in 600 cities of India. I would have never guessed that. You know, I would have probably thought that digital is a metro and tier 2 town or tier 1 city phenomena, but 600 cities. But coming to your question about, you know, what is the limitation of digital? Also, what we've noticed in health insurance, right? When you are at the hospital and the cashless transaction is probably not, the hospital is refusing, you don't want to talk to an app, you don't want to talk to a customer service, you need to talk to somebody, because at that point in time, you really need to speak. So within NACO, when it comes to health insurance, that's the facility we provide. You know, that's that human interaction when it's needed. We understand that it has to be an empathetic person on the other side who understands where you are and what situation is. So, so I do think that, you know, there are certain categories which can be completely digital, and like auto for us, you know, consumers from small towns, they come online, buy more. But there are certain categories in which there is, at least on the service fulfillment part, you need that human interaction, which gives you the comfort that, you know, there is a decent brand behind this product. You know.
Anyone else would like to take this question, please?
Yeah, Srikanth, I think you should have asked the other way around.
Tell me.
I think banking is far more. I think the banking is far more digital. We have reached to villages with the same products and services which we have in the metros long time back. So for us, it is not about following e-com. I think e-com is following us in terms of moving into those markets.
That makes a good.
We have actually, 6,000 branches, and 50% of those branches are in rural and semi-urban locations with a physical presence. And there also the same customers are doing digital transactions.
Okay.
What we see is, why is the physical important? Depends on category by category. If you want to put in your money, the branch next door is a clear trust building factor that my money is here. If you want to put everything in an app and say, I will put my money, maybe the millennials will understand that over a period of time. But the current set of people will still want to see their money in a bank. So it will take some time for it to change over a period of time. Maybe I'm sure my daughter will not even know how a bank is, and she will open a bank account and she'll put a payment app on top of it, and she will never want to go ahead and do anything with the bank. But till the time she earns her own money, because it's my money, she will do all this stuff. But once she earns her own money, I want to see how the behavior will shift. So we will have to wait for things to move in that direction. But digital allows you to go into a new place and start all the services on day one. Earlier, if you open a branch, you might have to get some 10 people to do multiple things. But today, a 2-man branch, except for a gold loan, which requires a physical valuer to be present, a 2-man branch can service the entire product suite of HDFC Bank, whether it is Bombay or whether it is a small rural village that we opened the branch with, because power of digital is there. But the money you get into the bank comes from the physical presence.
So I just want to have one point. I think I agree to a lot of extent, Ravi, what you said, but I do agree that e-commerce companies have played a big role in removing the fear of buying online. You know, the fact that I can make a transaction online and I'm not that afraid, that's a lot to do with the comfort that these companies have brought onto
I have no doubts about that. Before e-commerce came into the world, I used my mobile phone to transfer money.
Yeah, I would sort of, that's what I said in the beginning as well. I would sort of agree with Ravi, although some nuances I would, also have a little slightly different perspective. One is, I think that we, for example, just Kotak, we launched India's first downloadable bank account. We launched it 4 years ago. And, Amazon is probably more, or any of the e-com is probably more recent for a lot of people, you know. So the whether one followed the other or one influenced the other, I think putting money is very different from actually buying something. I think the stakes are very different, and I think that's something that Ravi covered very nicely. Although I'm a believer that geography is history, and while saying that, I do think that there is a role branches play, but I think that for financial services firms, the brand's going to play a very big role in bringing trust. So I think the role for a marketer is going to be very, very crucial in these digital times. When you can't see a branch, then the brand will, play a role, because on your mobile, if the trust is there, you will continue to do what you got to do. So I think that while, the physical network always gives credence to your presence, I think it's going to be phygital. And I think the brand's role is very, very crucial, because especially in our sector, that's the second. I think that the two-tier towns which came up, vernacular is going to be very important. So I think that we are more, led by English, Hindi, etc. But we will need to go much deeper into connecting with those people, with everyone in the way they want to be connected. We cannot decide that, and the customer is going to have very strong views on that as she interacts with us. So I think that it's very, very important, while we talk all of India, to be very cognizant of the fact that the vernacular journey has still some traveling to do, and we will need to look at that.
Actually, when you look at Indian languages, it's amazing. One of the examples, I mean, I think everywhere, wherever the new languages are introduced, usage jumps up. The thing that really blew my mind many years back was when Star Sports moved from English commentary to Hindi, and then to, I don't know how many languages they now have. And consumption of cricket immediately shot up. And you think that, listen, cricket, surely you can do without a language. You know the game, it's fine. But even in cricket, the moment they introduced, more languages, billions of people went on. Actually, I was going to ask this question about trust. There's one question I'll take from the audience, and this is Ashish Jhajaria. So anybody can take it. During the ongoing pandemic, where in the service expectations of consumers have banks, insurers, and aggregators fallen short? What are some of the learnings so far? I think this is for, it's for everybody, banks, insurers, and aggregators. Would anybody like to take it? Is there anything we have learned from the pandemic? Is there anything where the business has fallen short?
On the services aspect, it's about the fact that not every service that we provided always had a digital channel available. Like, for example, when you want to change a mobile number, when you want to change your address, right, we always want to do a physical verification, because at the end of the day, the mobile number is where you get your OTP, the email is where you get your OTP. Okay. And banks always had a higher risk considerations before allowing it to be changed. So we always wanted to see the physical person, check the photograph in our system, check the signature, and do it, because otherwise somebody can just hijack your money. That is where I think we have fallen short of, because of the fact that we were only risk oriented. This pandemic forced us to start thinking alternate means of doing the same thing digitally, so that we don't need to ask our people to come into the branches for some of these service related aspects.
Okay, there's a general question for all of you, and which is that when you look at growing your business, where does growth? It comes obviously from existing customers as well as from new customers, but where does more of the growth come from? Could you answer, each of you answer separately, please, because you'll all have different perspective on this. Would anyone like to take this? Do existing customers or new customers bring in more of the incremental growth?
I think it will be different for different brands. And
yeah, absolutely. So that's why it will be different for everybody.
For ACO as a 4.5-year, 5-year-old company, our back book is not that big, right? So our growth is definitely going to come from the new customers that we acquire across the top 15, 20 cities on auto, and when it comes to auto. And I'm assuming if for my friends here, Ravi and Elizabeth, they've been in the market for a decent amount, as you said, 25 and 18 years. So they have this huge base.
I understand. Yeah, sure. So Ravi, is that right? So it will be more existing customers, Elizabeth?
For liability business, it will be new to bank customers in terms of numbers. In terms of value, obviously existing customers. For the credit business, more than 80% would be ETB, existing to bank customers, because the customers, yes, so you can give a credit line pretty easily to them.
I would just second that.
Okay, good.
It's just exactly that.
All right. Okay, Shefali?
From GI perspective, again, it's different for all LOBs. Like the four major LOBs that we have: health, motor, home, and travel. And of course, there are different business lines, which is corporate and retail. So corporate and rural. While we spoke about the four LOBs is retail. So health, it's of course the new customers, because the old customer definitely will come back with the claim over a period of years. But yes, the renewals, I'm sure renewal as well as the cross sell is definitely equally important for as much as the acquisition. But for health, talking about the business books, I guess it's more of the new business that brings in more benefit.
Okay. There's a question from Ashwini saying, what dent has the pandemic made on the advertising side of things for this segment? How has your advertising brief changed? Again, it's an open question. I understand it can't be the same answer from each of you. Anybody can take it. How has the brief to your agencies changed?
So I think the agencies now know to be more aggressive in terms of scouting opportunities, because the products have become more relevant. The protection categories particularly have become a lot more relevant. The customer intent is a lot higher. And to expose the brand of your communication and your brand's communication is all the more important to stay on top of their mind. It is the period to not go silent and to be very regular with your advertising. I think when the intent is possibly at its highest, the consumer intent is when you go very aggressive and you do it in a very continuous and a regular manner.
Okay, cool. Akhil, would you like to?
Sorry.
Yeah, so definitely to be more aggressive. But I think the other thing to be mindful of, at least for a brand like ours that's gone entirely digital, is that if you look at just the amount of information that consumers are exposed today on digital channels, right? There is a blindness to just plain vanilla advertising. Consumers don't want to be sold to, right? I think as marketers, our biggest challenge is, at least on the digital space, is how do you become relevant and stay engaging, which is a pretty tall order, right? It's difficult to make a brand engaging and relevant to your target customer at that point in time, because there are so many other things that are vying for his attention, and especially for a category like ours, which is life insurance, where the interaction points of usually just once at the time that the customer is onboarded, once during the renewal, and maybe at some point down the line there is a claim. So in that sense, I think we're putting a much greater emphasis today on data, understanding who that consumer is, and trying to identify at what points can we actually be relevant and contextual to them. So that when we do want to deepen that relationship, whether it's through a cross-sell, upsell, or even when we want to find new customers, really trying to identify those moments becomes more and more critical for us.
So for us, I think Ashwini, to answer Ashwini's question, I think the brief has not changed. I think the timing has changed. When to advertise and not be tone deaf. Be cognizant of the fact that what your consumers are going through. That is more important, right? So the timing, probably when to launch, what to launch, that has severely changed over the last 1.5 years.
Okay.
I would like to add here, Shrikant. I would say from the marketer perspective, the pandemic has forced us to change the marketing mix as well as the messaging. So I would say in the brief, every brief now, there is empathy as a part in the brief. Empathy, customer empathy has been, all the campaigns are molded according to that. And yes, because of the pandemic, most of the big bang campaigns had to mellow down. Because of the lockdown, we weren't able to roll down and do more of mass media. So yes, there was a digital shift, I would say.
Okay, Elizabeth, would you like to add anything?
I think much of it has been covered, but I would say that the media shifts which Shefali talked about was something that we paid attention to, because I think a shift to OTT in higher strata households or in millennial segment, or is increased use of social media. Some of these things were factored into while looking at marketing. The other is, of course, that we increased listening. I think it was covered in saying we factored in the mood, but I think being relevant and being empathetic and being understanding and actually not so aggressive. So that's the only place I would differ, is something that we were very conscious of when we, as a brand, because
so
ultimately,
when you say not being so aggressive, you mean not being overtly aggressive, meaning you may advertise more, but you don't want to come across as pitching too hard. That right?
Yeah, hard selling messages in a time when somebody's lost a loved one or somebody's going through, is having a cathartic moment, it may not, work at all, because I think the second wave, which we all know, has been brutal on India. So I think therefore that's very important for us. So a lot of listening. I would just say that everybody knows what happened, but I think it's more a lot of listening to what the word clouds were saying, what customers were saying. What was the banter on social media before putting anything out was something I was very, very conscious of. And so was my team and everybody looking at this, piece.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll just add to what people said.
Yeah.
The first thing is brand investments went up for us because this is the time to be.
Right. Hi, Ravi.
We lost. Sorry, I'm on my mobile phone, so somebody calls, it moves on to the other stuff. So the brand investments went up, definitely, compared to performance marketing side. The reason is people are going through a crisis. As a brand, what do we stand for and what do we do for them? So we just didn't stop at communication at HDFC Bank. We did a lot more than that. We did lots of actions in the market, including our safety grid campaign, or putting our logo on the ground for people to practice safe distancing.
That is a fantastic idea, absolutely.
Then also as an entire banking system, we have done a lot of things for the customer. Like for example, removing minimum balance, you can withdraw money from any ATM, and all these things were being done more from the perspective of saying, as a brand, what do you stand for at this point of time for your customers? So brand investments for HDFC Bank went up dramatically compared to performance marketing. As Elizabeth said, it's also about the way you communicate. The context is different, and it's about safety and security and how you can actually be of help during this point of time. So when work from home happens, what is it that people do need for work from home? So the way we cut deals with our partners were all on what people will need for work from home. So it will include a washing machine, it will include a dryer, it will also include a laptop and a mobile phone or an iPad or a tablet, right, or even a workstation. So that's how we all looked at it, and how can we be with the customer?
Okay. I have a last question before, I think we've already exceeded our time, but I just want to ask you this. So we're agreed that the trend already began some years ago towards digital. It has been hastened by the pandemic. Now, I'm not talking necessarily about any of the sites or apps of any of the ladies and gentlemen present here. But if as I said, over the year, I tend to go to a lot of websites just as a matter of what they are like. The user experience in many of them is terrible still, even today, even in 2021. Okay, and a lot of investment is being made. That's evident, right? Why is I'm sure they're great apps, great sites. It's not to say that all are below average, but there are several of them which are still they're from another time. Why is it even now I'm requesting you to respond on behalf of the business, that why is it, if you look at the e-commerce site, and I think e-com sites have really trained us. It's like Domino's, Domino's says in 30 minutes flat, you get your pizza at home. If you go to a restaurant and you're sitting there for 30 minutes, you don't get it. You have a sense of, in 30 minutes, I get a food at home. I mean, how come it's 30 minutes at a restaurant, I don't get it? So the standards have changed. I think some of the e-com sites are just terrific. Why is it that we still see, let's say, varying levels of customer experience on websites? Is there a broad reason why this might still be happening so many years later, but so much of the business is happening online still? It's a general question, okay? So please, I think it's not about a particular site, but you must have seen it yourself.
I can give you two sides, right? I can give you from the bank's perspective and from Access perspective.
And Ashish, one more thing I'd like to add is that we are also communicating with a lot of people who may be going online for the first time. And this will keep on happening. So there's also that, right? So one has to be more careful. Yeah.
So I partially agree, partially disagree. I think
Go ahead.
As a tech company, as which was designed completely for digital experience, the emphasis on UI UX was paramount at Acko, right? It is still. I sit in meetings in which I have people debating about one extra screen. That's how much passionately they follow. Why should the customer move from one more, right? It reflects, right? Acko is 4.6 rated across on the App Store. It's one of the highest across BFSI segments. So there's a very heavy emphasis on UI UX. I think this is fundamentally when you form a team that is obsessed about UI and UX, and and you have the capabilities to turn that around. There is no reason why BFSI segment when it comes to website or apps cannot match the e-commerce segment. I think it's the way you go about it.
Okay. Well, would anybody else like to respond to this? No.
I do think that when you say, sorry, I just have a clarification. You're saying that across businesses, the websites, or are you specifically referring to BFSI? I mean,
No, I'm talking in this context about BFSI, that you may see a great site and you may see another which is really not at the level that it ought to be in 2021. And I would never ask this question, say 5 years back, because everybody was very new to it. My point is now everybody is playing the game for a pretty long time. So, no, but I'm specifically about BFSI. And because we brought up e-commerce as the context earlier, also, reaching millions of people, that's why I mentioned e-commerce.
So the reason why I would want to, respond to this is because my last assignment was in insurance, and the assignment before that was in broking and wealth management. So I've seen this journey a bit. I think that it depends on which part of BFSI, and some of it could do with what I have seen. Right. And I think that broking was, leaping ahead much earlier. Banking was after that, and insurance has been after that in terms of their physical, their digital journeys. And of course, specific brands have done better than the other.
Sure.
But just on categories, I don't think there is one hole in BFSI. I mean, it's a one story in BFSI. I think sectors have leapfrogged differently, but then right now I think many are evenly poised to change the run in a different direction with the when you bring the fintechs and you bring the small banks, payment banks, and all of what's happening and what's happening in the payments ecosystem. I think we're really set to, and in lending space, I think we're really set to explode, and we should reserve on what we're going to see in the next 3 years trajectory. I think we're all waiting to see that.
Okay, Elizabeth, actually you gave me the perfect opening because we've exceeded our time. So I'm going to ask you, I was going to ask this question and you said 3 years. So I'm going to ask each of you this one question. If we were all sitting together again 3 years later, how would our conversation be different from what it is today? In one sentence.
What a torrid time we had, and it got over in 2021.
Yes, certainly. That we'd certainly say. What else?
I would say it would be rather in person than virtual.
Yes, well said. I think both the answers are excellent. Yes, definitely. I look forward to that too.
Yes,
I really enjoy doing panels. Yeah, please.
Public memory is short, and we would have no recollection of this.
These are some of the best last answers I've got.
Yeah, Akhil? Thank God it's all behind us.
Good, sure. Samir, Akhil?
I think we won't be questioning if digital is growing enough or is reaching rural or not. I think it would be a widely accepted phenomena that digital is the main deal.
Right. Akhil, last word.
I find it hard to dispute what anybody has said here. So I'm just going to say that I second what everybody else has said.
Wonderful. Okay, thank you. That brings us to the end of CMO Week and this panel. Thank you all of you very much for being here today. And I hope we will meet, as Shefali said, on stage, and I hope it will be before 3 years. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, audience. Bye. Bye. Bye-bye.